Hello, my name is Jim, and this is Daily Brogue for the 23rd of August, 2021. I've been making a lot of bad decisions today. That's okay, because I've been talking about capitalism today. I've been talking in particular about what I've been calling fashion blogger socialism. So this sort of fashion blogger economics, let's call it fashion blogger economics. And what we want to talk about with fashion blogger economics is that it's sort of, this might Mark Blythe approach to economics where you just sort of blame rich people for getting rich and crap like that, because that's more or less what Mark Blythe does. He says rich people are stupid and I'm smart, right? And that's probably not true, right? On the other hand, that's how Mark Blythe gets rich, is he decides to tell people how smart he is. That's his deal, right? So that's what makes Mark Blythe such a good capitalist. Because he gives people what he wants, and what people want is exactly what they want from rap dudes. What they want from Mark Blythe is to feel like they're smarter than the rich people, right? Feel like they've got a better idea about how the world works than the people who are rich. Okay, so what was so annoying about the fashion bloggers? Well, this particular fashion blogger, she's been a fashion blogger for a long time, since she was in high school. And it wasn't fashion blogs themselves that I was interested in. She does something called industry analysis. And she did something in these industry analysis videos that I'd seen sort of similar people do. Previously, right? And that's say something bad about people's behavior and call it, and then explain it by capitalism, right? And that's pretty weird, because capitalism in general requires you to be a good person. And you say, well, how does that be? Well, capitalism is this system where I only make money, I only make a living by helping other people. Okay? And this girl has been living with this for a long time, right? She's been a fashion blogger since she was in high school, and now that's more than 10 years out, right? Since she was doing her high school blogging. What do I have here? Okay, drop E. That's a bad chain mail. Splint mail is good, but strength. I need much better L. You have a potion of fire immunity and potion of incineration. Okay. Let's let that guy loose. What do I see? Leather armor in the water. It's a bad chainmail. But it's near the exit, so I'm eventually going to have to go there. Is this near Bloodwort stock? Yes. Okay. Okay. Need to find. Do I have to go through eel-infested waters to get to that? What was here? Crimson Potion, I don't know what that was. Other than good. Hopefully that destroys the eel. No, I think that was bad. Fire immunity. Okay, oh, this is good. If I can get around and not die. What do I have? Lightning, blinking, that's probably good for this situation. Charging. Tell me that was. Charging, Staff of Lightning, Banded Mail. So that Banded Mail was good. Let me see if I can do the same thing here. Beckoning, Firebolt, Conjuration, and Negation. Actually, I don't need that. I shouldn't have done that. I have the other thing. Okay, what have I got? I didn't get the blinking again. So. Life is good. Not looking at this any good. Okay, so better idea about what's going on. So one thing is you shouldn't be talking about capitalism as if it's the thing that's causing problems, because it's not, right? It's just free exchange. It's two people trying to make each other better off. And there are people that can do bad things in that. There are different schemes that are not amenable to that. And we know more or less what they are, right? We know there's like Amway and places like that that probably don't do very well, but they're selling something more than just products, right? People tell me the products are good. One of those things, people tell me the products are good. People have been telling me that for years. I never actually tried them. But oftentimes what Amway is selling is not, or multi-level marketing deals are not really selling products, right? They're selling sort of a lifestyle, freedom in a sense, kind of freedom. Freedom from bosses and things like that. Be your own boss kind of deal. Is one of these things that you want, right? You want to be your own boss in general. You want to be a person who's capable of providing for himself without having to worry about someone else. Of course, that's not how capitalism works. Even if you're an Amway, you have to worry about how other people are sort of relating to you. So here we are with our dagger method. Dagger foo. Okay, let's drop. This may have been too early. Or too late. You use that detect magic on the previous level. Maybe found a magic weapon. Potion of darkness. Don't care about that, right? So there are lots of ways people take advantage of other people. In Amway's case, they're taking advantage of them because basically, in general, somebody who's interested in Amway is someone who's failing to meet the requirements for doing well in a capitalist system, which means they're not trustworthy, they're not reliable, they're not dependable, that sort of thing. Depth 6. Oops, not what I intended. Could have been bad. But reliability and trustworthiness are important, and you can abuse that trust, but you get to abuse it once, right? Think of the rating agencies, right? Rating agencies had a privileged place in equip. Let's try some of these guys. J, teleportation. F, identify. T, plus a reward hike. This is not the place where I want to be if I have to find it out. Apply S. Aggravate monsters. Apply R. Summon monsters. So, summon monsters didn't work because I put the summon monsters put monsters right next to you. I put the what do they call them? Spectral blades. They're on purpose. In order to block those spaces. I was being sneaky. Actually, I did not know that would work. Kind of thought it would work, but I wasn't sure. Apply U. Stealth range 1, 2, 2. So I think I recently learned that didn't work. Okay, I'll keep the warp hike, but I think I will H2M, H2M, H2M. Oh, I'm supposed to unpike the warp hike. Or unequip the warp hike, but I did not. I'm just going to punch that dude. Banded mail might be really nice, but I've already sunk a bunch of crap into that. is actually wasteful. But, so normally I don't use split mail. We'll see how this works out. So that should be an even trade, but it doesn't feel like it, right? So yeah, I'm a little bit annoyed. By some of the sorts of things that they seem to feel. Oh, no wonder I wasn't even wearing the split mail. The just general idea that something bad happens because of capitalism. That is, people are jerks because capitalism, right? And one of the first things she was talking about was flexing, right? And I think I talked a little bit about that, right? So flexing is just bragging. I don't know why they have to call it something else, but apparently they do. And it's like flexing your muscles, only in this case you're flexing your possessions. That's really bad for ogres. I'm tempted to use those enchantings, but there's only sort of a negative reason, not a positive reason, too. Other than I'm using this thing. Come on, no. Yeah. Scrolls of Identify can. I'd prefer to have it. Should have used it, but. busy not hitting anything. Levitation would have helped. Little toad told me. Recharging. Okay. Not find a key. So I did promise to tell what I thought was, maybe it's not poignant, because I mean it's just something that happened to me. Mostly it's probably just, you know, my stupid Yankeedom. Okay, I'm feeling that. I hope this is okay. Oops. bad me. Okay. Okay, so what is the story, right? I mean, I've been teasing it for you. I mean, I've been teasing it for several days. It's not a big story. I mean, I was saying that, actually I started it once, didn't I? So when I was in graduate school, we had a printer. It was on the 3rd floor. My office was on the graduate student offices, because all the graduate students had basically the same office with desks, right? It's not like they gave me a private office. I wish I had a private office. And actually I had 2 of them, because I worked at a center and I worked in the physics department. Neither here nor there, right? Ooh, look. See all the eels that I dropped down there? So, this was maybe the late 90s, let's say. And I went up one day to do something with the printer. I don't know why. And what happened was, there was a little sign that said, please, stack the waste paper here. And the whole place was a mess. So while I was, printing out whatever the hell I was printing out, I did what I think, what to me you should do, right? Which is, I stacked all the paper up. It was a mess. It was supposed to not be a mess, so I did my best to straighten it up. Some Russian came in, Russian graduate student, looked at that and he said, if people did this in the Soviet Union, communism would have worked, right? So the sort of thing that, I, with my sort of semi-Midwestern, I'm not really Midwestern, but semi-Midwestern values, the sort of thing that I, with those semi-Midwestern values, did is exactly the sort of thing that is required for socialism to work. But socialism doesn't build those values, is the problem. It's a major problem, right, actually. capitalism builds the values that are required for socialism. They're going to keep playing that game. Let's go this way for a while and that thing will play itself out. Okay, the mango is not as good. It's my dude. So, I mean, that's kind of weird, isn't it? That, well, actually, it's not so weird. Part of the reason why it's not weird, I mean, it sounds a little weird when you first think about it, but think a little more deeply, right? Then you'll say, what is socialism a reaction to, right? It's a reaction to capitalism from within capitalism, right? It's not a reaction to capitalism from without. Capitalism, again, as far as I'm concerned, is just a market economy, but socialisms all come from market economies. Right. because socialism as a system is not just, I mean, to some extent it is, but not just. A critique of capitalism, right? And there's a big problem there. I mean, you might be obvious, might not be obvious. Okay, that would be good. Capitalism is in some sense, or not capitalism, but socialism is in some sense a critique of capitalism, but it's not just a critique of capitalism. Because it is a system on its own, right? It says that it's going to do something, not just that it's going to replace something. Although that's a major part of why you're supposed to like it. You're supposed to like socialism because it replaces all the evils of capitalism. All the things that they're going to say make your life suck. Okay, let's get out of there, get away from the confusion. So it's one of these strange things. All of the things that the fashion vlogger economics, fashion blogger economists believe are things they believe because of capitalism. Capitalism has given them these values. That might be a little too strong, right? Maybe these values were required for capitalism to work in the first place. Let's see if any of these guys are worthwhile. So, to the best of my knowledge, that is completely optional. So, it also looks like a mess to me. Although, thinking about it, I also need I need to test this potion. So, can I get it over here somewhere? Yes, I can. Oh, those are mine. Okay. So identify. This is what I should have done with the other one. E. That's why I've got an ogre, buddy. Okay. So potion of telepathy. Good. Q. So So we had two ironic things about that, about this, about these problems people have with capitalism. One, it actually gives them their forum, right? That is, nobody's going to listen to a fashion blogger except in a market economy, right? For two reasons. One is one of the reasons that the fashion blogger was complaining about. And that was because, fashion is to a great degree conspicuous consumption. We should all be wearing tunics because they're cheap, easy to make. And if we'd stayed with tunics, right, instead of going to more complicated clothing. What is this? Oops. Oh, we're going to have to jump. What kind of key did I grab anyway? The door key. Oh. That's the way down, I want the way up. Right? And I was goofing off, I should have used that life. Lots of things I could have done here. Panicked trying to get to the ogre shaman through the ogres. Well, still nauseous. But I think that gets the main issue is that, I'm reading a book about the moral values of markets or something like that. And if you care, if you listen to this and you care, put something in the comments, I'll pick it up. It's in my car so that when I grab a cup of coffee, I can read a chapter. Because it's not really important, right? It's just something to read about, to sort of get an idea about what is important in the world, that sort of thing, that sort of reading. But we have these problems with how people look at capitalism, and I just don't understand it. You see all these issues, but it's not capitalism that's to blame, right? Oftentimes it's just the opposite, right? Oftentimes it's the same kinds of things that people are asking to change, but in reverse, right? And usually when you change things, when you give somebody power, they reverse it on you at some point. If I can give you this, I can take the same thing away. The power doesn't go away. So we're looking at socialism not as its own, it's not a reaction to capitalism, right? It is, because capitalism is, the demiurge, the name that's given to the straw man for every socialism. That's what capitalism is. It's a straw man for a socialist theory. But markets, the real thing, on the other hand, which have some necessary bits to them that we have to add in. We need good laws that enforce contracts and things like that, and we need morality. Morality and ethic that is promoted by capitalism, right? Capitalism is good. It lets people decide what makes them better off and what makes them worse off, rather than someone who just arrogantly assumes they know, which is anybody in government. Everybody in government just wants power. That's what they want. They are not good people, right? They are bad people. That's the reason why they're in government. If they were good people, they'd help other people. Instead, they help themselves. They have power. I mean, just look at how many very rich people are in government. Now, if you look at how many rich people enter government, it's a smaller number. So that's what's scary. I mean, just look at Obama. Obama went into government service as someone who makes less than me. Came out a multimillionaire. Not just multimillionaire, it's like $40 million, right? That's fucking scary. Making $40 million in public service. It's more than enough to make you doubt someone's sincerity. So we end up with this situation where you have a system whose main purpose is to make everyone better. In capitalism, things only get better by an exchange. Everybody's life gets a little bit better off. People dislike that some people, like the priest I was telling you in that story, because of their connections, because they are better able to make other people better off, make more money. And that's what happens in a capitalist system, is people who are better able to make other people better off, make more money. And that includes fashion bloggers, right? Somehow fashion bloggers make other people better off. I don't like it any more than you do. I don't like fashion bloggers, right? It's sort of vapid, right? All fashion is vapid. That's what makes it fashion, right? So the very thing that gives these people some sort of platform is the thing that they're railing against. In particular, this fashion blogger lady is really true, because she was poor and she's not poor, and she didn't really do any goddamn thing to get it, right? Except make other people feel better on YouTube. But it's all voluntary transactions. Nobody has been hurt except, by Google, by using people's information. And that's not really much of an injury. It's just sort of a creepy violation of privacy. It's like when a woman is wearing a skirt that is just a little too short to cover her ass, and the old men like me look at it. That's a creepy violation of privacy. But it's not really a bad thing, right? You might think it's a bad thing, but hey, if you don't want people looking at your ass, cover it up. Okay? Your advertising. So we have this moral system. It may or may not come from capitalism, but capitalism probably, or the market, right? The market probably winnowed it down. And the more we became an industrialized society and we had this ability to winnow it down, the more it winnowed down. Really, without industrialization, probably couldn't have happened. This kind of morality could not exist. And that's just because, or maybe it would not exist, maybe it could exist, but it would not exist because people would still be, 90% of people would still be farming. 90% of people would never see people from outside of their valley. Okay? That's the way life would have been, 400 or 500 years ago. So we only need traditional values. So if you have a good set of traditional values that then can be winnowed down by capitalism to show, winnowed down by markets to create better people, they will. Right? And that's what we have. That's what the Japanese have. That's what apparently it looks like the Chinese also have that. So it's not looking good for India still. India still looks pretty bad. Still a lot of conspicuous consumption in India. And the Indians who come to the United States are fairly bad at it, right? They're the kind of people who buy Mercedes for their 16-year-old kids, rather than what they should have, which is a used Toyota. And until they've wrapped that one around a light pole, you don't do anything for them. Maybe get them something nice after they graduate from college or graduate school or something like that. But, well, probably graduate school, right? You graduate from college, you can get a new Toyota instead of a used one. Graduate from medical school, and I have the money, then maybe I'd give you a Mercedes, right? Because now you're a doctor and you want to look like one. Same thing with a lawyer, right? You get your JD, and I have the ability to help you out with something like that, then I will, because you're my kid. Assuming I have the ability to help you out. But this conspicuousness that comes from non-capitalist societies, from societies where markets are tangential and connections are more important, that's an issue. But it's not capitalism that does that, right? It's the rest of society, and it's something about the rest of society that's getting worse, at least in the United States, and I don't know about other places. I mean, there was a time when, in a small GM town, the managers all drove Buicks. They could afford Cadillacs, but they all drove Buicks. Now, they wouldn't drive Lincolns because they work for GM, right? But that's the right way for people to be. That went away. That went away somewhere. And that's been going away mainly because, in a lot of ways, the fabric of society has changed from the 1950s. And there's some things that are good about that, but there are a lot of things that are bad. A lot of things that are bad. There's no community anymore in the United States, or at least in the suburbs like where I live. There's no community in this place. We killed it off with good intentions. So there's much more flashiness. Actually, I live in a very rich suburb, and there's not that much flashiness. There are a lot of Toyotas and Hondas and Fords and Chevys around here, but there are a few people. There are a few people with their Lexuses and Mercedes and Corvettes and things like that. Some people need them, but most people don't. Now, some of this may just be what the fashion blogger has seen is accentuated on YouTube, right? So if somebody's flashing around in this neighborhood, I'm going to see them. Maybe a few other people will see them, but not a lot of people. And in a way, that makes it not worth buying the Corvette, right? If only a couple dozen people see you, who cares? But if you take pictures and post them on Instagram and a couple thousand people see you, if you drive around on YouTube and, get girls to holler at your Corvette, and a couple thousand people see you, now all of a sudden you're increasing your value, the value of the pose that comes with conspicuous consumption. But this is not a thing that comes from capitalism. You see it in corrupt societies as well. You see it in communist societies, right? It becomes more important because that consumption then becomes a direct way to show your importance, right? And your importance is not based on your wealth. It's based on your connections. You may have wealth, but you have wealth based on your connections. You have wealth based on the corrupt practices of an India or a Soviet Union or something like that. Things still happen in communist China. You can read about them every once in a while because people get really pissed off. But, the sons of the party elite do really well for themselves, right? So that's a way to do it, right? They do well for themselves. They can literally murder people and get away with it, unless it's on tape, right? Unless somebody's taped it. So these things are sort of extra capitalist, and changing the economic system doesn't help. Changing the distribution of income doesn't help. What helps is trying to make a better, in a way, more transparent. I don't want to say too much about transparency, but I could do another 27 episodes on transparency. But nobody really believes in transparency, because how many people wander around and say, well, if the government's going to have an income tax, then all income taxes should be public documents. Not a lot. Not a lot, no. The first income tax the Americans tried to put into place in the mid-19th century failed just because documents were public. But every document in government needs to be public. So there you go. There I'm starting to rant on privacy. So capitalism is a system that both thrives on mutual benefit, right? And rewards people for good their good values, right? And because it rewards people for those good values, it makes people better people. Whereas when you have a corrupt system, when you have a socialist system, when you have a market socialism, or even something like that, anytime you give more power to the government, what happens? Well, cronyism becomes more important, and ethics become less important, right? Because it's a power system, right? Capitalism is just about mutual exchange. Socialism is about power, right? And a socialist system, a corrupt system, is about power. And everything that people have done to combat the evils, in scare quotes, I think you can hear that in my voice, of capitalism, has given more power to the central government and made people worse people and made the world a little bit more corrupt. And that's what people do. And so, you're not going to improve the world by hurting other people. But, that's what socialism, that's what even, the social democracy stuff does. Democracy isn't good. Democracy is just a way of being bad, just like every other government system. The nice thing about democracy is that it can be and it should be transparent enough that people can punish people who try to be bad using power that they're borrowing in some sense from the people. But what we've seen, at least in the United States, is that through concentration, through hysteria, which breeds concentration of power in Washington, things have become more and more muddled, right? If education policy is centralized, then what's happening educationally is less transparent. If instead education policy is at the county level, for example, then you can see what's going on, right? There are other problems as well, but there are other problems mostly with elections and crap like that and how people put elections together. But the problems of conspicuous consumption aren't capitalistic, right? That conspicuousness is not something that's required for capitalism. And often people want to tone it down, except for people who are in sales positions, right? Lawyer, nobody wants a poor lawyer, right? So a lawyer has to look prosperous, right? A salesman has to look prosperous. So they're conspicuous, but most other people, it's usually a sign of corruption, right? When you buy your own yacht. So people don't want to show it off. Anyways, that's my rant against the Mark Blythes and their fashion blocker economics for now. Again, if you want to see what fashion blogger economics looks like that isn't done by a fashion blogger, it's done by somebody reasonably intelligent who can actually defend themselves, look for Mark Blythe. If you want to see somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, look for Michael Munger. That's a good person to look for. Much better thinker, I think, than Blythe. Actually, pretty entertaining, too. Not as entertaining as Mark Blythe, but pretty entertaining. That's fairly odd. I'm not one to talk. I mean, I think lectures are plenty entertaining. Okay, so that's enough. I think I took 15, 20 minutes of talking after I was done. I should have just started up another one, but that could have been another 3 games. I don't really want to do that. So thank you for listening. I will talk to you again sometime.